I'm here with Crystal Burrell. She's a student here at the university. Why don't I let you tell everybody who you are, what you're about, and all that sort of stuff?
Okay, awesome. So I'm Crystal.
Yeah.
I'm a junior at BU in CAS, CFA, doing international relations, foreign policy in Africa, and theater, performance theater.
Wow, that's a mix. Why'd you pick that mix?
Well, I like nonprofit work. I like foreign policy, diplomacy, and that sort of thing. But theater is my life.
Sure.
So I really wanted something that gave me like a comprehensive view of theater.
So what are you doing here on campus to be involved in those sorts of things?
Oh, I'm a minor, and the minor is really it gives you a lot of opportunities to really get involved with theater. Like right now I'm doing stagecraft, so there's a great play going on, closes this Saturday, Camille, so I'm doing wardrobe for that.
Okay.
So it gives me hands-on experience in the theater, which is really
That's
cool.
what stagecraft is.
Stagecraft.
You do some other things around here. I've seen you outperforming and those sorts of things. Talk
Yeah.
to us about that.
I'm in Speak for Yourself.
Mhm.
It's a performance poetry group.
Okay.
So I write my own poems, then perform them, and it's great energy. The people are great. The content is really cool.
And real quick, talk to me a little bit about your creative process with that. Do you have some time you set aside each week to write, or do things come to you? How do you put your items together, or are you reading other people's stuff?
Sometimes what'll happen is I'll literally just be walking down Com Ave, and something will just click.
Right.
And I'll pull out my phone, pull out the memo app on my iPhone, and just start writing something.
Okay.
And
okay.
oftentimes what actually happens, I'll write the last stanza of a poem first, without knowing that when it all comes together, it'll be the last part of it.
What kind of things make your brain click with these sorts of things? Is it visual? Do you hear something? Smell something? I mean, what makes that happen?
Sometimes it's just observation. I really like observing people's behavior and just observing how people act naturally in their circumstances and
Right.
their specific stories and how their stories lead to what they do in the present.
Sure.
And so I'll just watch, I'm from New York, so over the summer I wrote a lot.
You did.
And a lot of the time I found myself just writing about what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
The stories write themselves. I'm just interpreting them. That's how I felt.
Do you have a certain theme that you try to bring into your work? Something come up over and over again for you?
Not particularly.
Okay.
It's usually varied.
Okay. So last summer, were you in New York? Did you go home?
Yeah.
And you were in New York. I heard this rumor you couldn't even find a job last summer.
Oh, it was rough.
It was rough, huh? And so you just laid on the couch, and your mother put up with that, right?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh,
so
no.
talk to me a little bit.
Okay.
What'd you do?
So this summer I couldn't find a job in New York,
Right.
so I made it work. I did a lot of networking.
Okay. What's that mean?
Okay, well I volunteered, first of all. That was mainly what I did this summer. I volunteered at a literacy initiative.
Okay.
I was tutoring a 9-year-old boy, doing reading, writing, and math. And he was brilliant, and he was so funny, and just kept me on my toes the whole time. So that was what I did primarily.
And sometimes those volunteer initiatives can even be hard to come by because they're not
Yeah.
just taking new people.
Yeah.
What would you do to make sure that you could get a spot?
I made phone calls.
Uh-huh.
I made phone calls. I visited the places
Right.
actively, and I was if they're in need of a person, I'm so willing to do it.
Yeah.
Finally, I found this really great place, Central Park North, in that area. So I'm okay, and so I applied.
Right.
I had to ask one of my professors to write a recommendation.
Okay.
So it was a pretty long process, but ultimately I was so happy with it.
Yeah.
So.
And I think something you mentioned that's pretty important is that you visited the place.
Yeah.
You let them know that you were this competent person on your way to do
proactive about it.
Yeah, very important. Good. So you just didn't fire off a bunch of applications and resumes, right? You had to put some work in.
A personal touch. I'm really about personal communication and that type of thing. So.
Sure. Well, you did this other really cool thing too.
Yeah.
You got to talk to me a little bit about that.
So I wanted to sort of dabble in playwriting over the summer.
Okay.
Right, because I'm all about
I like
plays.
that dabble in playwriting.
I wanted to, because I'm I love acting. I love all things theater, so
Right.
I need to figure out the root. And to me, the root is the play itself, right?
Sure.
The content. And so I spoke to you in the spring about all these different things, and you're reach out to playwrights. And I'm these playwrights aren't going to want to talk to me. They have all this time. I don't have time to sit. But actually, I met with Lynn Nottage.
Oh, tell people who Lynn Nottage is.
Lynn Nottage is this fantastic playwright. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, actually, and she has set up shop in Brooklyn, which is great.
My hometown, your
our
hometown.
Look at that.
That's right.
So
Go Brooklyn.
So she's written Ruined. It's a play that takes place in the Congo. It's about the effect wars have on women,
Right.
especially women's bodies.
Right.
She's written Mud River Stone, which is also a very good play, and she's written Intimate Apparel, which CFA actually put on I believe, last fall.
Yes.
It was great at the BU Theater. So I really wanted to meet her, and it just sort of happened.
And you got a chance to meet her.
Yeah, I met her August 29th. It was a Wednesday.
So
Like,
you
so
can
specific.
even
I
remember.
remember specifically down to what I wore.
So what was so memorable about this?
I mean, it was just awesome because having read her work, to be able to put a dialogue and like a personal experience to that was just really cool. And she gave all types of advice about her writing process, and
Right.
she basically pointed out that everyone's writing process is going to be different. And I was telling her, I was asking, like, how do I avoid meeting something I'm writing and being censored? Like, how do I essentially free my process? And she was just like, the first step is to realize that you need to break down whatever barrier you think is stopping you from writing your truth. And she was just talking about that, and I was saying, when I'm writing poetry, it's so natural to me.
Right.
Because, poetry is more of a personal experience, whereas a play, the nature of a play, is really to be shared in a community. So it's not just, you're writing it for yourself, you're writing it for 2 people or 3 people, you're writing it for a community.
Okay.
And
so does that mean you figured out that you are a poet, not a playwright?
no, I think the most interesting part of the conversation I had with Lynn Nottage was that she said it's possible to merge the two.
Okay.
That they're not separate realms, they're
Right.
very fluid, which I think was great, because she's basically saying, I can take that intimacy that I have in my poetry and I can write a story, develop these characters, and have them have their own world in a play. So that was great.
Nice. So what's next up for you?
I'm gonna keep writing plays. I'm gonna keep making that an active thing and reading a ton of plays, because I read a ton of plays over the summer as well. Like Rachel is a great play by Angelina Weld Grimke.
Very good.
I think everyone should
Very
read it. Really good play. I read Mine Eyes Have Seen, also really interesting. And you recommended that I read The Iceman Cometh.
Did you?
So I bought it last week.
You bought it.
And I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
So that's
Nice.
what I would do.
Well, look, I appreciated what you did. You didn't just sit around moping. You didn't just go on the internet and send a bunch of things out. You were active.
Yeah.
You figured out what you wanted to do, and you just went for it and got, I think, some pretty surprising and wonderful results. So
I thought that was cool. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get a job. It's midsummer. What's my next move?
all right. I like it. And hopefully it moves you to where you want to be again.
Yeah,
All
definitely.
right, good. All right, so we got to wrap it up, but you told me what you're reading. I'm always interested, too, in what people are listening to. So talk to me a little bit about what's on your mobile listening device that you've got.
Lots of Prince.
Prince.
Little Red Corvette.
My man
Kiss.
Prince.
Adore. Purple Rain. Lots of Motown.
How'd you find Prince?
Prince just kind of happened.
Really?
I mean, I've watched the movie Purple Rain, no exaggeration, 20 times in the last 3 years.
Okay.
I mean, because I had it on DVR at one
Right,
point,
right.
just playing it over and over. I just love it. I think he's great.
Okay.
And he's still so relevant, like 30 years after the case. Like, I saw him in concert last December,
Yeah.
just as amazing as I would imagine he was back when he just came out.
Wow. I had this conversation with a friend of mine about who should be, if we had to recreate Mount Rushmore and call it Mount Funkmore, who would be on it.
Oh.
Prince would be one. Who else would be on it?
Prince.
Give me four.
Okay, I would say Prince.
Yeah.
You gotta say MJ.
Michael Jackson? Really? On Mount Funkmore?
I mean, he can get funky.
Okay, all right.
He's pop,
okay.
but he can get funky.
All right, I'm
James
feeling-
Brown.
I was going to say James Brown.
Come on,
Definitely
James Brown, definitely.
Sly Stone.
Sly Stone.
Bootsy Collins, I don't know.
What
Funk.
about?
George Clinton.
Yeah, he did a collaboration with Prince.
Yes, he did.
In the 90s. It was really good too.
So, all right, we're going to have to leave it at that.
Awesome.
Crystal, thanks for coming
No
out. This was a
problem.
great thing, and I hope that some folks can draw some real lessons from you. You are well-read, you listen
Thank you.
widely, and what's more, you're a real go-getter, and that's the kind of thing that folks have to do in order to move their dreams forward. So,
Thank
thanks.
you so much for interviewing me.
I'm glad you're here.